Happy Friday. Just give me a couple minutes while I get set up. Hey, Do, how are you? Happy Friday. Oops. Okay. Sorry about that. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Just fix the camera a little bit. That's good. Hi, Margaret. So tonight, I'm going to do these two cards using the World of Good suite. It's actually a beautiful collection. And if I could grab, I don't think I have my catalog. Oh, yeah, I do. Grab my catalog. This is the perfect masculine set. I know we all struggle, well, at least I do, struggle with male cards. It's just so easy to make a card for a woman. But this set, the papers are gorgeous. And the stamps and the sentiments are just so very nice. And you can, with the suite, it comes with your stamp set, dies, an embossing folder. You can get these little cards that you can add into your cards when you give them out, or you could actually use them for a layer on a card front. They're a smaller size, and then I haven't even opened this, but it comes in, it's called the Memories and More card pack. So you could actually utilize these for the fronts of your cards and just add a sentiment. It comes with a few stickers. You can use it to mark the map on the globe. Just a very beautiful set. And I didn't struggle as much as I usually do when I make cards for men. So it did help in that way. And I just wanted to let everybody know this is the card that's going to be on my newsletter this week. I used the masking technique, added a frame. You can see the dimensionals, but I added a frame around, and there's actually a jar behind, and then the two in the front. And for our next paper pumpkin, it's actually looks like it's going to be very nice. It's Celebrate the Magic of Summer Nights with the Summer Nights paper pumpkin kit. It's going to have 9 postcard type cards with matching envelopes, and 9 die cut tea light bags, which sounds really nice. It would be great to put them around if you were to have a party. And the colors that are going to coordinate with it is Blackberry Bliss, Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, and Night of Navy. So it sounds like it's going to be a really nice kit this month. So like I said, we're going to do this card here, and here's the inside. And then this card is actually, and I didn't even do the center, so we'll do that together tonight, but it is the card which stands up, and then a little gift box that actually sits right in that little space. So that's how it would look when it's standing. And I actually, for the sentiment, I actually use those cards. So it should be a fun project. So we'll start with this one here. I'll have the PDF on my blog, not on the blog, on the Gal Friday stamping group tomorrow. I haven't gotten it finished yet. I was trying to get it done today, but time just got away from me. So we have just the normal card base, 11.5 by 4.25, scored at 5.5. And we're just going to fold that. So there's your card base. I layered it with a layer of Old Olive. And then I used the brass, and this also comes with the suite, the brass specialty paper. Now I'll show you, this is going to be the next layer. But instead of wasting all of this empty space that's going to be covered up, I die cut the globe from here and the tag for the other card, because all of this is going to be wasted. I could have actually also used one of my rectangle stitch dies. I did that when I made the original card, and I actually did cut the center out. So I now have an extra layer instead of wasting all of that nice paper. And then I used a layer of Early Espresso, and this is Run Through the Big Shot with the Old World paper 3D embossing folder. And it really does give it a nice texture. So let's get these layers together. I had to pull out a new refill because I have a feeling I'm going to be running out of snail tonight, and I haven't actually gotten any of the new Stampin' Up! Adhesive, so I can't even say what it's like. I haven't gotten it yet, so hopefully I'll have it pretty soon. Okay, so there's that layer. Now with this layer, you don't want to add the snail to this, so I will actually add some glue. When you put this, if you try to put the snail on an embossed, and we could have used either side, but I'm going to have the texture on the outside. And like I said, you don't want to put the snail directly on your embossed paper because it does flatten it out a bit. It's a nice embossing folder. If you wanted to make the paper stand out a little bit more, you could distress it with a gray, or I didn't do that on this one, but you could take some gray and distress it with a sponge or a distressing tool. It would be perfect. It would make the embossed section stand out a little bit. You actually also could take the embossing folder, and let me see if I grab it, and again, using a sponge, let me just grab this. I actually, when I ran mine through my Big Shot, I actually bent mine, so it's a little warped. I'll have to put it through the other direction. But if you wanted the background to be colored a different color, you could always add ink to this or this side and then run it through, and it would imprint the color on your embossing folder, which is also a nice technique. I've done it with the tree bark one. Oh yeah, the snail is pretty hard, and from what I hear, the new adhesive is actually stickier than the snail, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. Okay, now for my next 3 layers, I'm using Old Olive, the Early Espresso, and this is actually a piece of the DSP. And we're going to snail these 3 layers. Making sure it's even. And then the DSP. Let's see, I think we'll put it this way. That's not straight. If you don't press it down right away, you do have a chance to lift it back up, which is always good. The glue, though, you have a little bit more leeway. Okay, that looks better. Okay, now this piece I actually popped up, but before I do that, I am also going to use, and this is from the suite also, the antiqued corners and slides. If I can get this open, I always have trouble getting these little containers open. But it has these pretty little corners. This just you can't really tell, but it just has little lines. And then this side is a little decorative side, and that's the side I'm using on my card. And then it also comes with these cute little belt buckles or sliders, so they're really cute too, just to add a little old world style. Okay, so what I did with these is I added my glue, and we'll do this first and then I'll move on so it has a chance to dry, because I am putting a good amount. But all I did was took these little corners, added the glue, and then stuck it on this corner. Let me just see, making sure it is even with the edges. And it should only take a few minutes to dry. Okay. Oop, I have glue on my finger, so it's gonna stick. Okay, let me just grab my paintbrush. I'm going to even that out. And I'm just going to wisp away that glue. And we'll just give that a couple minutes to dry. Hi, Bobby. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is the card that we're creating using the World of Good. And right now, what if I'm adding the little corners. We're just going to let that dry for a couple minutes. And while that's drying, I'm just going to poke out these little spots on our globe here. And I showed you how I ran this layer here on the card through the Big Shot and actually cut this out of that layer so I wouldn't waste the whole inside of that layer. Okay, and then we have the little stand and a circle for the back side of the globe. And actually what I did with this, let me just grab a scratch piece of paper. We can do this while that's drying. I grabbed the light Seaside spray, and using the brush side, I want the back to look like the water of the world. So I just put in a nice layer, and I'm not going to worry about lines or if one section is darker than the other. And just coloring this in so it'll look like the water. And then we're just going to take our globe and we're going to add some glue, put a few dots around the edges so it adheres really well. So I don't really want it to bleed through. And then we're just going to add this, and you will have a little bit of an edge on the outside because the circle is actually a little bit bigger than the globe. So we're just going to make sure it's even all the way around. And I have glue on my fingers. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Now this is the stand, and I don't know if I'll be able to do this with it already cut out, and I didn't do it on this card. I actually added a little bit of gold to that, but it also comes with a stamp, and it's a little bit off, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this. I'm going to try and stamp the stand. Not too bad, I think I got it. And I added some soft suede to it, just to change it. You really can't tell because I did it on the early espresso, but it just changes the look just a tiny bit. And then I cut out the feather, and we also have the feather stamp. And for this, again, hopefully I can get this. I'm actually going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp the feather. I'm going to stand up again, and hopefully I won't have to run another one through the Big Shot. Oh, it looks pretty good. Not too bad. What we can do where it is not exactly to the edge, I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm just going to trim this side just a little bit. You never have to worry that you made a mistake. It's always fixable. Okay, so now we're going to turn it this way, and we're going to try this again. And I'm using the congratulations on this new beginning. I could have used a Happy Father's Day, because Father's Day is coming up. And we're going to, instead of using a tag die or a tag punch, I am using the feather for my sentiment. And I am going to use it full strength. And again, we're going to try to get this on here without messing it up. There we go. So you can see the sentiment is darker than what I did. And then I took the little scroll die and cut out in an early espresso. And I actually, when I glue it down, it's going to be glued down so it looks like there's the feather is actually writing. So we'll get back to the card. We have this layer. Now we are going to pop this layer up onto the center. And if you've been with me for the last few weeks, I'm still using my paper pumpkin dimensionals. They seem to last forever. Okay. So we're going to take these off. I'll clean up my mess as soon as I'm done. Don't want any of my little pieces to disappear. Okay, so as you can see, my corners, and I'm just going to grab that paintbrush again. I can just still see it as it's drying. I have my corners on the top right and the bottom left. And we're going to center this in the middle of the card, popping it up. Straighten this out a little. Okay, so there's the front of the card. Now for the globe, I also popped this one up. Don't you just love dimension on cards? I know it makes it a little bit more difficult to mail, but I just feel if you're creating something for someone you care about, what is a couple extra cents for your postage? It'll mean so much to them. Okay, so we're going to pop this up onto the front of the card, making sure it's in the right direction. And you can always use that center line as a guide. And we're going to make sure it's centered on this piece. And that looks just about right. And stick it down. Now for the little globe stand, we're going to glue this one down. So I'm going to use some glue since I'm running out of snail. We're just going to tuck that up and under, making sure it's straight. Just going to move it over a little bit. Using that center line as my guide. Okay, then we have our feather. And that also, I popped that up, and I'm actually going to cut some of the dimensionals thinner so it doesn't show through the front side of the feather. Just like that. And we're going to stick this right about there. Get our little scroll. Add a few dots of glue. And glue it down so that little end piece is underneath the tip of the feather. And then we have the front of the card done. Just clean this off a little bit. Okay, now for the inside of the card, I have a layer, and like I said before, these will be posted in the group by tomorrow. I'd say by noon. I'll give myself some leeway. Now for the very vanilla layer, I have to be honest, I'm not really too sure. And let me just pull this out. I'm not really 100% sure what this die is. It cuts and creates this incredible little stream of lines, and I'm not 100% sure what it is for, but I used it for my inside layer. And then I cut a piece of the old olive to match the front of the card, and we're just going to put a line of glue on this side and a line of glue on that side, and we're going to line this up just like that so it shows through. And I'm just going to add a little bit more glue to the top here to make sure this stays down. And you know the glue dries clear, so it just gives it a nice look. And then I have another circle, and as you can see from the inside of this card, I stamped the same globe, but I did it in old olive. And it looks like it is way down to the bottom. Grab the scratch paper. Stand up and line this up. Okay. Just going to trim this a little, give it a minute to dry. Like I said, when you're crafting, there are never mistakes. I remember one week, I think I touched the front of the card with one of my blends, messed up everything I had done, and what did I do? I took one of the gilded gems and stuck it right where, yeah, I haven't messed up yet, do the gilded gems, and covered it up. So there's never any mistakes. So never give up on your cards, even when you're coloring. Just keep going. It always corrects itself, and in the end, you'll always have a beautiful card. Okay, so I'm taking the light seaside spray again, and I am just going to quick color in the water so it matches that one on the front. And you'll notice, because it is not Whisper White, but it's very vanilla, that it just changes the color of the seaside spray a little bit. But that's okay, because water isn't exactly blue. Okay, so there's our little world. Let's get these two layers together. Now it should be dry. And as you notice, I didn't put any bow or twine. And I don't think any of the masculine people in my life would want a bow. I didn't even tie a bow on the box for the next card. I tied it in a knot. Okay, and we're just going to take this world, add some glue, chuck it right here on the bottom, and then we're going to adhere this to the inside of the card. Okay, and there's card number 1. I hope you like it. Boy, that's a nice heavy card. Really very pretty card. A nice matching envelope would be nice too. So let's jump to the second card. We have a card and a little gift box all in one. And like I said, it would stand like this, and the little box gets inserted in that space, and this is what it looks like. So it's very, very unique card. So let's get started on this one, because this one is a little bit more involved. So we have our layers, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't do the inside of this card. We'll do the inside together tonight. So let me just quick score this card. And it's a normal card base, 5.5 by 4.25. And I do have my ruler here because I want to make sure. Now we want to make sure I have it the right way on the fold. We want 1 inch on this side. So let me just grab my pen. And we're just going to mark 1 inch, because I'll show you a trick. We have to cut out the section for the box. So if you grab your cutter, the box is actually 2 by 2, and I want to make it just a tiny bit bigger. Naturally, the opening for the box, you want it just to be a little bit bigger, and I think I did it 2 1/16. So what we're going to do is I marked the 1 inch, and we could even do it here. Put your edge at 1 inch. See, make sure I have it right. I'm standing up. Pull my cutter up to the top. And what you'll do is you want it 2 inches deep and we want it 2 inches wide, the opening. So you'll see on your cutter that there's little lines, and if you take your cutter and come down and stop that line, just want to make sure I do it right at the 2 inch, you have your first cut. Now before I take it up, I just want to make sure, see, it didn't go through the whole way, so I'm going to just do it again. I just don't want it to go any further. That should have worked. There we go. Okay, so now we want to go, and I'm going to turn it now. We want the box to be 2 1/16. So I am going to line up the cut that I just made on the 2 1/16 line. Pull my blade up to the top, and again, holding this nice and tight, we're going to go down to the 2 inch mark on the ruler. I'm just going to make sure this went through, and it did. And we can do the same thing. Now I'm going to do it from here. We know this is 1 inch, and we know our line is 2 inches. So we're going to, let's do it this way. Put the blade, line it up with the 1 inch mark, because we know that that edge is 1 inch. Close it, and 1 plus 2, we're going to go down to the 3, and it cuts out our little notch. Now we're going to need that again because I have to cut my layers, but I just want to see and make sure the box will fit. Now I'm just going to take a little bit off, just a hair, so when you do this card, you may need to make adjustments, just a tad. And like I said, I am just going to take off a hair. Go down to the 2. And I'm not going to go all the way. I'm just going to snip it with my scissors. Okay. So there is your card base. And we have a little extra piece you could always save for something else. So now we know that we have 1 inch here, and we have, and I'm going to write this down because my brain sometimes doesn't function, and this side is 2.5 inches. So we're going to put a layer of early espresso, and then we're going to put a layer, and it's upside down. Make sure when you look at the DSP from this set that you actually look at it, because I did have it this way, and looking at the words, it's upside down. So we have these 2 layers. So again, pulling out our trimmer, we know this side is 1 inch. I want it to be smaller, and I usually do 1/8. So we're going to get 7/8 on the cutter. Bring it down to 2. And then we have 2.5. I want to bring it 1/8 shorter. Cut and bring it down to 2. And then we know that this is 2 inches long, so we're going to put it on the 2. Line this up. What did I say? 7/8. That looks about right. You actually can see the lines. Look at that. Okay, let's see how this looks. It's just a little bit off. Oh, no, it's not, because I wanted it. That's actually perfect, because I want it lined up with this section. Okay, so now for the next piece, we could actually make it a little easier on us. And while I'm thinking about it, we have to do the inside too. So I am just going to put this is the inside layer, and it's the same size. So I'm just going to get my lines. So now you can see, now this one, again, we want to make sure this layer is on here even. And we can do the same thing, and we'll make cutting it out that much easier now. A lot of cutter work tonight. And I know it's it's an involved card, but just imagine the face of the person you decide to give it to. They'll love it. This is a gift box and a card all in one. You have a special occasion. Okay, we're just going to go this way. 2. Nope, we're going to go this way. Line this up with the line. Okay. Do the same with this one. Make sure it's lined up. And this we can actually just line up that line right in the middle. And if it doesn't go all the way to the end, we can always just snip it with our scissors. Put this up here. Just better to be safe than sorry. Since we're this far along, I just can't see that line. There it is. Okay. Okay. So that's the inside. And then we have one more layer. This one right here. And we're going to make sure this is lined up. Mark it. This will be a little easier to see because it's the very vanilla. I'm going to go down to the 2. Take this one. Get all this cutting done so it's finished. Okay, let's put that away. Okay, so now we have our card. We have, our first layer. Like I said, we're going to line it up. Just see this one. I'm going to line it up with that opening. I'm going to use this one. And then we're going to take this and layer that. So let's get these layers on. Just make sure the edges we're just going to get this first layer on, making sure the opening okay, and then we're going to put our layer of DSP. I just want to make sure all our edges have some glue. And again, we're going to, if we need to do a little trimming, that'll be fine. But I want my layers to be straight. Okay. I just want to trim this off a little bit right here. Just a tiny bit. Okay, so there's the front. So, like I said before, I used the cards and memory cards pack. World of Good Memories and More card pack. Instead of stamping a sentiment. And it was on a card about this size. So I just cut out "The World Cracks Open" for those willing to take a risk. And then I also, hopefully it's right here. I'm going to have to run another one through the Big Shot, I think. Let me just see. It was here. It probably fell when I was doing all this cutting. Okay, we'll grab another one. We'll cut up another one so I don't see it right here. Yeah, I don't see it. Have my feather and my... Okay, so let's grab... Let me just grab a little piece of this card. And I'm going to just quick run it through the Big Shot. Let me just grab the die. This little inkwell. Just going to grab the die. See what happens. I'll actually use this little piece of paper right now. So it'll match. Okay. Alright, so now the next thing I did was I took, and I should have done this before I laid this down, but I didn't, so we're going to do it a little different. Going to make sure our edge to our ribbon. Now on the first card I did, I actually tucked the ribbon down behind this layer. And where I already glued it down, my boo-boo, we're going to grab some glue dots. And I want to hide this bottom piece. So we're going to just put a glue dot on this side and one on this side. And they're sticking to my fingers. And then we'll put one right at the end. And then one right here on this end. And we can use this as our guide for how long it has to be. And trim this off. I'm just going to make sure it's straight. And then we're going to make sure. Now this ribbon is the Early Espresso faux suede, which is very pretty. Now, you see that? Okay. So that's that. Now, like I said before, I had taken this layer out of the middle of that layer. And then this, I'm trying to think, what was this too? These are the ornate frame dies from both of them. One in Early Espresso and one in the brass. And all I did was add some glue to the back of this one and centered it in the center of the Early Espresso one, making sure it's pretty even on both sides, and glued that together. And then took some dimensionals, put one on either side, and we're just going to pop this up right here on this side of the card. Okay, then taking another dimensional, I'm going to pop up. I must run my mouth a lot because it's taken so long for two cards again. This is the little inkwell, and we're going to put this towards the bottom. Make sure it's centered. Grab the feather again. And my soft suede. I'm going to do this feather full strength. And again, I'm going to trim this because I didn't get it exactly where it should have been. If I had the little, the new little embossing machine, I would definitely emboss or die cut after I stamped it. But my Big Shot is in poor condition. I am so looking forward to the new machine. Okay, and now what I did with this, since this little tag is, let me just get this mess out of the way. Since this little tag is popped up, I'm going to take a little sliver of a dimensional and put it at the end of the feather, and then the tip of the feather I'm going to add some glue. Tuck this under the jar and stick it down. For the sentiment, we're just going to glue this card, center it, and then we're also going to add some dimensionals to the back of this. Well, paper pumpkin dimensionals are almost gone. By next week I will not have any more. Okay, so this one I put down here towards the bottom, trying to center it to that 2-inch square the best you can. And that's the front of your card. And so I don't have to keep you too much longer, I am going to create the box for you. So I don't take up any more of your time. It just seems like it went, I must have been running my mouth, because 2 cards should not have taken me that long. I'm just cutting a little box out here. I'll be right there. I must have dropped them. Okay, so for the box, this is 6 by 6, and we're just going to make a normal box. Clean up my mess a little. And we're going to cut the bump on the right side of the bump, and then we're going to tab the corner. I'm going to do the same on this side. Tab it so we make sure that that score bump is gone. Okay, turn it around. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Now for the inside of the card, the layers that we cut, I was just going to layer them, making sure it's centered. I would have to get rid of this little piece right here where I put my pen mark, and then just adhere it to the inside of the card. I will add the directions to the PDF, but I'll just create this box quick and so I don't keep you any longer. Okay, so we'll use some tearing tape. I don't even know where my little lid is. I don't know if anybody's seen. If you've all seen, I know you have, Do, and I know you have, Charlotte, Margaret, but I use the cap to my glue as my cutter, and I don't know where I put it. So we're just going to add some tear and tape. I'm going to put it on top and bottom. Let's get my wrist in here. Same for each. Same for each tab. See, it doesn't work as well. I have to find my cap. I just love using my cap because it tears off nice and straight. I don't have any messes. I guess I need to get a little ruler. Okay. And we're just going to make our ordinary box. Pull off the tear and tape. Tuck it on the inside. Make sure it's all lined up. Now, where I just put this one, we're going to make sure this one now okay. You want your edges to be straight because you don't want to, you don't want anybody to notice that crease or the where you've put it together. Okay, one more, and then we'll get this show on the road so you guys can go back and enjoy the rest of your Friday. Okay, so there's the bottom. Make sure it fits, and it's this one, and it does, fits perfectly. And make the lid, and we're going to do the same thing. Again, my dimensions will be in the group, right here in this group, tomorrow. My newsletter should be going out tomorrow also, and like I said, I'll be showcasing this card in my newsletter. So if you're not subscribed and would like to be, head on over to GailFridayStamping.com and you can sign up. So we're just gonna again cut these tabs. Same thing on this side. These little tabs are so tiny. I'm just going to use a bit of glue. I'm going to make sure it's close to the edge. Put the glue on all of them so it gives it a minute to set and you don't have to hold it so long. And then this is 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. And I'm just going to glue this up. Make sure this is the front of the box. Put this on the front of the box so it's a little bit decorative for the front of the card. Create our lid. I've been using, I have to get a Stampin' Up! One, but I've been using a Martha Stewart scoreboard for years. I've had it for so long, I just don't have the heart to get rid of it. But I've noticed that lately it's not scoring straight for some reason. And it doesn't, I can't get it to stay in the track. It's starting to get annoying. So here's the top of the box. And all I did was took the Early Espresso ribbon, and instead of tying it in a bow, I actually just tied it in a knot, just like that. Still cut the tails on an angle. Here's the front. It fits. I actually could have changed it to the other side, but there's your second card. So I hope you like them all, both tonight. This one, I tied the ribbon, so the ribbon you can see on the front. And then here is the second card. So if you place a $35 order by Monday using this host code, going to galfridaystamping.com, I'll send you these make and takes for free. Thanks for joining me tonight. Sorry it took so long. I have to stop running my mouth all the time. Have a great weekend, and watch your email for my newsletter. And I'll talk to you during the week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.